This meeting is being recorded.
All right, we might as well get started. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Info 5330. My name is Paul Birchall. I am your instructor. Oh, who just came in? Who came in? It is Andrea. Andrea, I am going to mute you if that's okay. I'm glad you're here, but I'm going to mute you. There you go. Okay, excellent. Thank you. It is my pleasure to be your instructor for 5330. I just got the assignment a very short time ago, as I think you know, but I think I'm on top of it. I'm hoping to give you a good, rigorous academic experience and talk about academic libraries. Ooh, who's talking? Someone in there still not muted? Hold on one second. What's that? Just checking to make sure everything. Good. Hello. Welcome. Can everybody hear me, by the way? Okay, good. All right. I am just going to get started because we all have things to do on this Friday night. And so, welcome. Who's this? Let's talk about me. Welcome to the class. My name is Paul Birchall. I have a MLIS from the University of North Texas, same as all of you. And I have a bachelor's in classical history from the University of Chicago. I've also been a TA in this program since I was a student about 10 years ago. I TA'd for about 4 years after I graduated. TA'd this class about 4 times for Professor Dew, who was the professor of note in the class and developed it. He's been promoted to be the interim dean, and he asked me, as soon as he got promoted, to take over some of his classes as a adjunct instructor because I TA'd so many of them. It's really not that hard of a jump. And if you've noticed, the TAs at the University of North Texas tend to do a lot of the teaching work. So it just made a little bit of sense. I'm very pleased to be here, and I hope to give you all a very good, valuable experience studying the theory and practice of academic librarianship. A little bit about my career. I've done pretty well. I graduated right in the middle of the most terrible library job slump. But I've been working quite steadily. I started as the assistant archivist at the Skirball Cultural Center. It's a museum in West Los Angeles. I got hired about 7 years ago by LA County. I won't lie, I wanted to be an academic librarian, but at that time, the jobs were quite few and far between. So LA County came a knocking, and I became a public librarian. I've been adult services librarian at West Hollywood Library, adult services librarian in Culver City. These are communities in Los Angeles. Was the children's librarian at View Park, and I recently have just been hired to be the community library manager of the really, really small county library on Catalina Island, which is really exciting to me. I'm going back and forth between here and Catalina Island about 3 times a week, and it's a marvelous experience. It's like I'm the island librarian, and it's both a public library job and also a sort of historian job because you have to manage the archives on the Catalina Library. It's really very cool. I just want to see if we have any questions going on. A bit early for questions. Good, everyone's here. We are doing fine. Moving right along. Also, popping through will be the original developer of this course, Dr. Yunfei Du. He's the interim dean in the College of Information. He is our patron saint. He will be, I believe he's going to pop through for some guest lectures. I'm also going to try and bring in some professional appearances by some academic librarians that I know in my community. It should be a very good term. Professor Yunfei Du is going to be quite heavily involved in the class. However, I'm going to be doing the day-to-day stuff, the grading and the interacting with people individually, and hopefully helping you guys through. We also have a teaching assistant, Uriel Anya. I'm very excited to be working with Uriel, and I'm probably going to put him to work grading papers. We'll see, or doing some research for some of the articles, because we're going to have quite an appetite for journal articles in this class. So let's take a second and talk theory for a moment. Why study academic libraries? Well, why not? Um, the the Association of College and Research Libraries. I was looking through their mission statements, and a point that just leapt out at me. Within institutions of higher education, academic libraries stand as physical and at the same time virtual places for learning. Libraries contribute to learning in many ways, and this is the basic mission statement of any academic library, by the intelligent collection and arrangement of resources, through the teaching of how knowledge is organized, and in the creation of environments which foster reading, inquiry, and critical thinking. So libraries are not just repositories of information, they are places where information is put to work. And on top of that, they're the very symbol of many academic institutions. It is no secret that one of the criteria for when a college or academic facility needs to be accredited, they look at the library. They look at the library first to see, what learning operations go on in there and how deep their resources are. Back to the College Research Libraries Association. Not only do stakeholders count on higher education institutions to achieve these goals, they also require them to demonstrate evidence that they have achieved them. The same is true for academic libraries. They too can provide evidence of their value. Community college, and university librarians no longer can rely on their stakeholders' belief in their importance. Rather, they must demonstrate their value. That means in all areas, libraries are now very outcome based, meaning what does the library do for its stakeholders? Not just a repository of information. What services? What services do they offer? How do they affect and benefit their customers? For customers, they are. So academic libraries are no different than any other library in that sense. They have to pull their weight. Fortunately, the academic institutions generally tend to value their libraries and give them the resources they need. But there's always a sense of urgency, because the resources have to be utilized in a way that can be proven effective. Let's talk very briefly about types of libraries. This is an old school reading room. It's actually from my undergraduate. It's the reading room at the Harper Library at the University of Chicago. And you can see it's just a big old reading room. You could turn back the clock 150 years and it would look the same way. This is what most people think of when they think of a library. They think of sit there and study and do your research. And and it's wonderful. It's such a beautiful place. But yeah, that is the old school, original type of library. And the other day I was at UCLA. This is sort of the way libraries are looking now. This is a learning commons. UCLA basically cleared out a lot of their periodicals area on the first floor and turned it into this collaboration space, a space for collaboration and where people can work on projects together. They have these gigantic Cisco screens, and they can work on their projects and work together and collaborate. And that too is the message of a library. It is a collaborative space. It is a village green, like a public library. It's a place where you go as a third place, not home, not school, not work, but a place to get your stuff done. and this is how they've developed. Hello, who is that? Who came in? Who came in? It is. Who are you? Oh, hello, welcome. I'm going to mute you. I think you're already muted. Excellent. Welcome. Also check the chat. I'm sure nobody has any questions. Good. We're all doing very well. I'll check the chat every few minutes to make sure I'm not missing anybody yelling at me. And also, you can briefly unmute yourself and shout out if you have a question or if the screen dies or something crazy like that. When I was in library school, we had our UNT institutes at Cal State Northridge, which is in a suburb here in Los Angeles. And they had just unveiled these gigantic robotically controlled storage areas where all the books that weren't very commonly used and would customarily be stored very far off site. They've actually built a bunker and it's serviced by this robot that fetches the box containing the book when you input the information. And this too is a sort of technological innovation that you find basically in academic libraries where the repositories are meant to be deeper than a public library, which is pretty much based on popularity. Okay. There was an article, most of you probably just blitzed by it, in the introduction, on our introduction page, which discussed a survey that was given to about 50 academic libraries and what they considered the most important topics in academic librarianship. These are topics we're going to touch on over the course of the semester. And I don't think they're in that absolute order, but as far as importance is concerned. But there are all sorts of these are sort of new important topics. Maintaining the higher education accreditation, that's part of the library's job because it is the focus of much of the institution's accreditation. Knowing the higher education institution organizational structure, that is about where the library fits in the academic community. Does the head of the library report to the provost? Is he or she a member of the faculty? Is she a director? Is he or she an administrator? It varies from university to university and from college to college, and that feeds into number 3, the position of faculty status for librarians. I believe UNT does not bestow tenure on librarians. USC does in California. There are some libraries whose librarians are actually granted tenure and have to publish and perish and teach classes and be members of the faculty. However, many other ones they're just staff. So that actually probably certainly affects morale. Oh, do I have a chat? 1 second, please. Let's take a look. Right. Yes, that's a great observation. And I think you will find that librarians with tenure tend to have just by definition, have a deeper knowledge of their field because they don't have to fear coming and going and where the next career jump is going to be. Yes, that's an excellent observation. Thank you. Knowledge of technical service operations, and the knowledge of Web 2.0 technology, like we're using today. I think one of the most important things librarians do now is information literacy instruction. We're going to talk about that during this course as well, because there's this whole new field of first-year experienced librarians whose job are to keep the freshmen from shrieking in terror and teaching them good research skills, so they're able to navigate the academic environment better. I wish I'd had that when I was a freshman. Very good. More topics. The evolution of the library as place, like that picture from UCLA that I just showed you with the study commons. Uh, E-source management and modern publishing. This is going to be something, this is as if you've worked ahead in the class, and I hope you haven't, but just in case you have, publishing is going through a huge revolution right now. The journal companies like Elsevier and EBSCO are battling the open access movement. And the argument is that uh, the usurious price of journal uh, journal access and licensing, it's stifling academic growth. So uh, their open access and other similar formations are evolving. Even this year, some of the articles are just coming out right now on green open access or gold open access, and we're going to talk about that. Faculty issues. Oops, that's just a repeat of tenure. The familiarity and integration of distance learning elements. You see how many classes are now online. Look at your own University of North Texas experience. Librarians need to be very familiar with handling people who are in different states and is helping to assist them not through books to hand, but through e-resources or interlibrary loan scans and things like that. Um, Librarians also at the university level tend to be needing to continue their education, also continue to assist folks in school. Uh, you will find when it comes time to do your midterm report, uh, almost every academic librarian you approach will be very glad to assist you. It's part of the job to give back to the next generation so the field could keep evolving and moving. Number 11, a topic that's really important right now, or just perennially important, are the different types of libraries, community colleges, professional libraries. The sense that on a major college campus, the gigantic research library of yore is now broken up into an engineering library on one side of the campus, or a medical library on another side of the campus, or a humanities library somewhere over here, or a Korean language library way over there. um, these changes. This is sort of a change in the academic library field. Advocacy and promotion of libraries is a perennial in any field of librarianship. We have to keep the library going. We have to advocate for it. Just cause an academic library has lovely stone pillars and looks like it's been there forever, it needs to remain relevant to its community. There's no question that you don't want people thinking, "Oh my, libraries are just places where I can just sit there and snore at a study carrel." They need to be relevant, otherwise they're going to be bypassed by Google.com or some other formation. And advocacy and promotion of the library will always be so perennially important. Oh, I did not mean to go forward quite yet. I don't know if I can go back. Liaison relationships with scholarly departments and embedded librarianship. This is something I'm fascinated by. I love the idea of embedding librarians in departments. The information college has its own embedded librarian from the UNT library, whose job is to respond to any questions you have. You can find a link to it on the front of the UNT Blackboard site. And I know I have a good friend who is the business department librarian at Cal State Northridge, and it's an amazing job. Just to be sort of niche, to be a niche librarian into this amazing field. and provide really specialized service for the department that you're assigned to. And that is a really emergent field right now as well. Let us talk about our class. Let's move on to actual brass tacks, what's to be expected of you in our class. By now, all of you should have ordered the textbook. There it is. It's the bud. I kindled it the moment Professor Dew said, "Paul, would you mind taking over the class?" I downloaded it, and I have the 2012 edition on my Kindle right here. There is a 2018 version, and I hear we're going to use it in the spring, but it's $75. So right now, just go ahead with the 2012 edition. I hope somebody didn't go and buy the 2018. I'm sure it's nicely updated, and next term we will use it. But right now, just use the 2012, and we will update our class load with the stuff that stretches from 2012 to 2018. So. Let's talk about the course description. This course examines problems of organization and management of university college and community college libraries. It examines the resources, functions, and services, federal and state programs, development and trends, and you will have a chance to, if you choose at the end of the term, to do individual investigation of major issues and topics. That is our general course statement and mission. What can you expect when you're taking my glamorous academic libraries course? There'll be readings. I think you folks have mostly figured out. You read one of the top. You read one of the topics. You post an article about it from the supplementary readings, and then there'll be discussions. The librarian interview, a research paper at the end of the term, and guest lectures. And I'm going to go through all of these in much more detail right now. Evaluation. This is what I'm going to be looking for, what I'll be given points on for the term. There are a lot of things this term. Just try and get through it. I'm timing it so that I don't have anything too big due in 1 week. You know, in 1 week's time. It should all be spread out through the term. I'm pleased everybody did their self-introduction. I'm excited to read everybody's reading summaries and the one comment. The week of discussions, I'm getting a lot of questions about it. I promise you it won't be that bad. It's basically just your opportunity to just dig a little deeper into the topics that we're discussing. The librarian interview, previous years, that has been the final project for this class. I'm doing it now as a midterm. I recommend everybody go ahead and get started trying to dig up an academic librarian so that you can interview them. And I'll have more about that in just a minute. A final project, that's going to be a report at the end of the term. And then some participation points because I've been examining the class, and I think there are some new topics that aren't part of the syllabus or part of the curriculum. I'm going to try and just sort of hastily pop up a question, sometimes during the week, and people can get points for discussing it. I promise it will not be anything that's going to be hair pulling or requiring, too much deep, dry research. But I think there are topics that are very worth researching and talking about that aren't quite on the syllabus because they're very new, and I'd like to see us talk about them. So we will be doing some pop-up discussions, probably starting next week even. So there are 3 basic modules for the semester, as I think you've discovered from examining the class. We've divided the modules into 3. There's services, there's management, and there's technology. As you go into each module has 2 or 3 topics, and we're going to do 1 topic a week pretty much. So module 1, the first module, is on public service and technical service. So we're going to deal with, first week is scholarly communication, Next week is going to be collection development and open access. And then the week after is going to be distance learning. For each of these weeks, Article 1, Article 2, Article 3, um, first week you're going to find a journal article from the supplementary readings at the end of at the very bottom of the module. Um, you'll just basically summarize the article with at least 250 words. Uh, Include your opinion of the piece. And also, just because I just feel like the Socratic method requires a little more give and take, I would like you to comment on one other student's post. You don't need to do two or three or four or five, just one. So you will every week you will post one summary and one comment on somebody else's post. I'm not worried about how long the comment is, but the summary post should be at least 250 words, and do include the article's title in proper APA citation format, because this university is all about those citations, particularly when it comes to preparing you for your end of program examination. After we finish the first 3 weeks, those first 3 articles in Module 1, we're going to have a separate week to dig deep in the discussions. Everybody is going to be expected to do 1 original post and 3 follow-up posts. And it's basically just on the topic of services in academic libraries. And you can pretty much take it in whatever direction you want as long as it deals with the basic module of services. That'll be your opportunity to talk about your own experiences or what you've observed or shortcomings you've seen at various academic libraries dealing with the module topic of services. I hope that makes some sense. If it doesn't, feel free to email me or talk to me anytime. I can hopefully clear it up to you. Module 2, that's management. They're just two topics in the management models, libraries and money, and recruitment, tenure, faculty, and status. Article 1, for topic 1, 1 article, 1 follow-up article. Topic 2, 1 article, 1 follow-up, followed by a week of discussion, 1 introductory post, 3 follow-ups. You can talk deeply about your your theories of management, how it links to, say, if you've taken the management course that the UNT offers, or advanced management, how it dovetails with what you learned in that class. Just take it in any direction. Module 3 deals with technology. That's going to be fairly glamorous. We're going to talk about electronic media that first week. Again, 1 article, 1 follow-up. Then the future of academic library technology, Web 2.0, mobile tech, whatever's advancing. 1 article, 1 follow-up, plus then the week of discussion. And I hope you will sort of talk about trends in technology, maybe what's coming next, maybe in academic librarianship technology. Take it where you want. Just 1 week of discussion, 1 intro, 3 follow-ups. In total, you'll be reading the textbook, summarize 7 articles, 3 discussions, pop-up discussions, academic librarian interview, final project report. I'm embarrassed to say that card should have been a little farther down in the discussion. Sorry, I put it up here because now I'm going to talk about the interview and academic librarian project. I hope you folks will not have too much trouble finding an academic librarian to interview. Let me know if you have some real problems. There are more academic librarians than there are stars in the heavens. I should think you will just approach, send an email to some academic librarian trying to set up an appointment and come on into the library and interview them. Do not ambush a librarian. That happened to me once. It was not pleasant. Don't just show up at a college library and say, "Hello, may I see a librarian for the interview?" Do yourself a favor, contact, maybe even write a note to the library director, an email to the library director, and say, "Hello, I'm in library school. Can I interview a librarian?" And see what they say. Do not just walk on into the library and say hello. That really doesn't doesn't work. Um, if you are in an isolated spot, and I know there are some people in our program who are, taking the program in Guam or in rural Arkansas, if you are not within a drivable distance to an academic library, yeah, we'll accept a Skype, an email, a phone interview. Uh, it's so much better if you do it in person because then you can look around the library and see the academic librarian's work in context. Um, the phone interview, it'll do. I prefer stuff not to be, when you talk to I don't like it to be too staged. So a phone interview, you can sort of surprise them, or not surprise them, but get sort of real answers to the questions we offer. The email interview, I don't know. People try and do it. It doesn't really turn out that well because what happens, you send them the questions and they send back sort of stock answers that they've cut and pasted from their library mission statements. So I would say at least try and do a phone interview if you can't physically find a librarian in person. I think that works best. Some possible questions. Um, I recommend you also pursue your own interests in the questions. Don't say, hey, are you hiring? But you can certainly ask questions like, what professional rank do you hold? Does your institution offer or have faculty status or tenure? Is this the same as for a teaching faculty? What type of status do librarians have? What are the requirements for promotion? Why did you choose to work in an academic library? That's a great question. That's a good one. People will talk for hours about that. Some other questions: what professional organizations do you belong to? Do you have a professional mentor? How do you find a mentor? Oh my goodness. What listservs, social media groups do you subscribe to? Uh, have a very interesting question. Have users' information seeking patterns changed in the recent years? Where do you envision academic librarianship going? What useful skills did they not teach you in library school? Oh my goodness, I think you'll all realize that once you graduate, you everything changes on your first day of work. For some reason, we can't teach you actually what you physically do in a library, but you have to have gone through library school to get there. And they will tell you this. They'll probably say, oh no, I learned everything on my first day. It's going to be kind of interesting for you to experience. Um, Once you do the interview, please send a thank you note. It's just polite. Everybody loves it. It may actually become really useful for networking. If they remember you fondly when you're applying for work, you might get a leg up because you've sent them a nice, polite thank you note after the interview. Yes, send a thank you note after your interview. If you look in the syllabus, the structure of the report that you're going to have to write up for the librarian interview, you'll find that there. I'm happy if you do just a transcript. I generally also, it also works well if you actually write it up like a magazine interview, saying, this is what I thought. This was an interesting statement. I didn't expect them to say this. But yeah, you'll find the information on putting it together in the syllabus. Okay, let's talk very briefly about the final project. In previous years, there used to be a final project at the end of the term. Then it sort of went away, and now I'm going to put it back. It's going to be a pretty long term. I think there's some opportunities to do some really good scholarship with a final project. I don't mean you to reinvent the wheel, but I do mean you to use this final project to explore some areas of academic librarianship that aren't necessarily talked about in the modules or the topics. It doesn't need to be huge. I'm going to accept 4 or 5 pages with citations. Of course, you can go longer. I would like you, we're going to talk about the topics for the final paper in just a second. Let me know what you're going to do by mid-November. Don't save it all for the last minute. Otherwise, you're going to be pulling all-nighters, and I don't think anybody in this class needs to be pulling all-nighters. Let's talk about the choices for the final project. Choice 1, write a research piece, a research article, a professional academic research article. Yes, I know. Your research articles take years and years and years and years. Some people take their whole lives to write a research article. I'm not expecting you to write a polished final research article. Write an early draft. Write a draft of an article that might be accepted in a library and information science journal on a topic related to academic librarianship. You can write on trends in the field or observations of best practices or some other aspect like that. The term is not long enough for a real research paper, so just go ahead, do a research paper light. Be sure that it's in what the attitude is what's more important than the content, really. I want an introduction, a statement about the topic, a brief literature review, a description of how you would tackle your research, and a final description of where you're going to present your research. Like if you going to publish in a journal, are you going to take it to an open access repository? Are you going to present it at a conference? So just a draft of a light research article. Um, yeah, just more about process than content, if that makes sense. And of course, you can ask me questions about that if it's fuzzy. Or you can choose an issue discovery report. This would be your chance to explore an issue of importance in the academic librarianship field. Create a plan for implementing a project or service relating to the issue. Find something that interests you. Say you want to write about interlibrary loans, come up with an innovation maybe. Begin by identifying the size and scope of the academic library and institution. Craft a plan, which will include a description of the library, the plan, the mission, and its vision, a needs assessment, goals and objectives, activities, action plan, program budget, staffing, layout of the service, and assessment measurement of its success. It's sort of a project management report. You don't need to go into huge detail. That sounds like a lot of outline bullet points. Each one doesn't need to be more than a sentence or two. I would accept that. So it's more about the thought that's going into it and following the outline, and the points of the outline can be quite brief as far as I'm concerned. There is a third choice. This one is actually kind of enchanting and fairly less difficult than others. Um, you may discover as you take this class that information literacy instruction is a huge part of what an incoming academic librarian does with their time. You could create a brief information literacy lecture for the class on PowerPoint or Prexy with the focus of assisting undergraduate science students or humanities students or whatever on how to write a research paper. You can pretend they're students at UNT. Record the lecture with some kind of teleconference software like the one we're using right here, Zoom, GoToMeeting software or something like that. Um, and then post a link to the lecture in the discussion area for the class to see. I think that would be really interesting. Uh, it's not as simple as that because information literacy instruction requires an understanding of educational principles, how students best learn, and a way of presenting it. Uh, you have to learn to present the information literacy instruction in a way that will resonate with the students. We're coming to the end of our talk. Some other topics that will be worth considering in our class. Information literacy instruction. UNT, it seems to me, used to offer an information literacy instruction class. I believe they did away with it, which is I think unfortunate because it is really it's a core of the academic librarian experience, particularly if you're going to get a job in the emergent field of first year experience librarianship and not say work, as the liaison to the classics department where you're probably never going to leave your dusty room. Embedded librarians, oops, that's what I'm talking about, where you never leave the dusty room. Course liaison librarian, embedded librarian, I love that stuff. We could do that for years. Professional service, this is Uh, it's not just staying on your campus. You'll notice almost every academic librarian you meet goes to the conferences. They help out, with their professional organizations. They join CLA, they join ACRL, they join Internet Librarian. There are um, all sorts of professional organizations. This class, I hope, through the journal articles and the sources they come from, will offer you a chance to see what the professional organizations are you will be interested in learning about. Soft skills, oh my goodness, marketing. If you don't think academic librarians market, oh, they market their library, they market their university. Leadership development, events planning. There are always programs, even at an academic library. Events planning is kind of huge in public librarianship, but in terms of the academic community, it also bolsters the prestige of the academic library. For example, uh, maybe the writings of A. A. Milne in context with the release of the Christopher Robin movie. Many libraries set out displays and have events with that sort of venue. All right, scholarly librarians. Oh my goodness, yes. I will notice many academic librarians tend to research, especially if you're on the tenure track. You have to publish and perish. Uh, you notice if you ever go to TLA or CLA or any of the ALA, there are so many people presenting, and the field people are always looking for material to present. Uh, you know, take some innovation you brought to your library and present it in a conference, write an article. There have been many students in this program who have written articles uh, while they're in school, get them published in Library Journal or the ALA American Libraries. Watch the deadlines. Yes, well. Oh, I've come to the end of my talk. Uh, Let me check chat to make sure I haven't missed anything. That is all I have for you. Does anybody have any questions? Did any? I hope this recorded. So, did everybody hear me? Is everybody okay? Any questions? You all fall asleep? Hello? Uh-oh. Somebody type hello. Okay, good. Thank you. All right. That is all I have for you. I'm excited to be with you all. I think we're going to have a tremendous term. I've been reading the introductions. You folks come from a wide, varied set of worlds. Um, I think we're going to have a really exciting time. I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens when the pedal hits the metal and we start talking scholarship matters. I'm really looking forward to midnight when I will start looking at your articles about the top trends in academic librarianship. I hope you folks didn't mind that as a little surprise assignment. Um, there will be others. Yes, uh, I sometimes this class has been offered. The question is, does our schedule alter if we are taking the EOP this semester? Some years, um, the professor just stops the class for EOP, for the EOP week. When Professor Dew teaches it, he actually is one of the EOP graders, so he stops the class so he can focus on grading those. I'm not doing that. Uh, um, if you need more time, I think there's only one student in the class, maybe you, Jason, who is taking the EOP. Um, if you need more time on anything during the EOP week, just ask. I want you to focus on that. But I'm not going to change the schedule. I don't see any need to. Basically, with all due respect, you're one student, and I think you can do it. So, but if you need anything, just let me know. For that week, the EOP takes absolute priority. So if I stupidly, said, "Oh, that's the date of the paper," just say, "Paul, you scheduled the paper for the EOP week. Can I have that?" Can I have a delay? And of course you can have a delay. Just let me know. Does that answer your question? Good. Yeah. So it's very important that you do that. Yes. I will gladly. I will upload the PowerPoint. Miranda asked if I'll upload the PowerPoint. I will certainly do that. Absolutely. And also, provided I figured out how to press the right button to stop the recording, if you want to listen to my lovely lecture again, by all means, it will be uploaded as well. But I think for the sake of your sanity, better just make do with the PowerPoint. All right. Anything else? Anybody else? Everybody happy? If you have any questions, just email them to me. I check the site all the time. You can also email Uriel, also Professor Du, or all three of us. One of us will get back to you. So, anything else? I am going to move my mouse to see if I can stop the recording. Okay. Let's see, can I do this? Otherwise, it's going to record for the rest of our lives. Stop recording. Okay, everybody. Here we go. Here we go. I'm stopping.